I want to introduce you to the law offices of Vincent W. Davis at 888-888-6582. They're advocates for the rights of parents, grandparents, and guardians in juvenile dependency courts. Losing a child to a DCFS CPS social worker based on an anonymous call, complaint, or your ex-spouse is not only horrific, but it's commonplace. Everyone will agree that there's nothing more valuable than one's child. You cannot afford to fight this alone. Call the law offices of Vincent W. Davis at 888-888-6582. Connect with an attorney today. That's 888-888-6582. Get your kids back.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to Fight CPS, the Civil Rights Struggle. I am your guest. I'm your host, Amanda Cisco. And it has been a little while. So today I'm going to have a special announcement for you guys. Now, our guest was having technical difficulties tonight, so I'm going to have to call her on speaker and put it next to the computer for you to hear her story. So without further ado, let's go ahead and get started. So I wanted to start off by saying I have been on a long break because I was actually involved in an accident, and I was in the hospital for a few months. And yeah, so until we figured out how we were going to go about dealing with that situation, in my best interest, my staff had kept it kind of under wraps because it was kind of in litigation at the time. So basically what happened was it was the day after my daughter's birthday. I was probably in my feels. I have no recollection of that day at all. But after the accident, when I was out of the hospital, my neighbor had told me that she saw me outside on my back deck like all day playing guitar, which is why, I assumed that was probably my feels, missing my daughter. And I probably went on my skateboard to get some fresh air and clear my head. And it was around 8 or 9 o'clock at night, and I was run over by what was probably a speeding car. And I was in a coma. I had tubes down my throat. Actually, I sent our producer a picture of me in the hospital, so maybe she can show that for you guys so you can see just how bad it really was. Yep, there's me. So that was me. And so I had 2 ribs broken. My brain was bleeding in multiple places. My skull was shattered in one area, and the fragments of it are actually sitting on top of my spine, which is, kind of a hard pill to swallow. And my brain was bleeding in several places, and now I have a severe traumatic brain injury. So all in all, this entire process has taken quite a bit of getting used to. I pretty much have to get to know this person from square one. The person I was before the accident basically doesn't exist anymore. I am getting used to this new person now. And it's also frustrating sometimes dealing with my body since, a lot of things are difficult for me now. But I have hope that in time it'll all get better. And my dream of becoming a lawyer is still, very real to me. My goal, not my dream. So I will continue to work on that. And I will open up the floor at some point in our show tonight for my viewers, you guys, to ask me whatever questions you want to know about this accident that happened. So without further ado, I will go ahead and get my guest for tonight on the phone. Her name is Janelle. Let me see.
Forwarded to an automated voice messaging system.
She must have been trying to call me at the same time. Try one more time.
Your call has...
Okay, let me text her. She did say that she was having some technical difficulties. All right. Well, while I'm waiting for her to respond, I just wanted to say that I am really happy to be back. Apparently, no matter what, I can't die. So I'm just kidding. That was a bad joke. Okay, OMG, Amanda, I was definitely missing you and wondering where and how you're doing. I'm so glad you're okay and back with us. Well, thank you, Chase. Here, let's try to call her again. Okay, it's ringing. Can you guys hear it okay?
Hello.
Hey, Janelle, it's Amanda with Fight CPS, the Civil Rights Struggle. I have you live on air right now.
Hi, how are you?
I am good. And I'm so glad to have you on the show tonight. So I just finished my introduction. I told my viewers about the accident that happened to me. And without further ado, I would like to get into what's going on with you. So what brings you on the show with us tonight?
It's a struggle, right?
Yes, it really is.
Yeah, I got 4 beautiful little babies that are stuck in the system. That's all. For no reason of my own, anyway, not my fault. So,
that's really unfortunate. I'm sorry to hear that you're going through that. So, are you able to tell us what the reason was that the system got involved?
how long do you have?
Well, we have about an hour.
Okay. Well, it's probably the same as most stories. I'm an avid watcher, so domestic violence is what it started with.
Yeah. Yes, I've heard lots of stories like that.
Yeah.
So let me guess, the police got involved because of a domestic violence incident, and instead of helping you, probably the victim, they contacted CPS to get involved instead, and they wreaked havoc on your life. Am I correct?
Yeah, that's putting it lightly, but yes.
Oh, man. So how many laws and rules did they break during the life of the case?
I don't know all of them probably, but
and that is why, guys, it is so important for everyone to know the law when they get involved.
Right. You need to know your rights. You need to know your rights. I didn't.
Yes.
That was my problem years and years ago. I didn't know. I had no idea what my rights were.
I didn't either at first. And by the time I finally started learning, it was, virtually too late. They had already done all the damage they could possibly do.
That's kind of the point I'm at right now. It's almost over, and I don't know what to do. So.
Are your children with you now?
No, they are not.
I'm so sorry. How long have you been separated from your kids?
He just graduated high school. He just turned 18 and graduated high school. So. And he's still not with me, which doesn't make any sense because he wants to. So.
Wait, they're keeping your adult child from seeing you?
Yes.
How can they do that?
They bribed him with college money, apparently.
That's upsetting to hear. And I hate to say that it's not the first time I've heard something along those lines said to me. It's disgusting.
He's my best friend,
I can definitely imagine, because I myself am also dealing with a case with the system with my kids, and it is pain beyond anything I could say in words. Actually, it's part of the reason why I got hit by a car, because I never would have been out there at night skateboarding if I wasn't so depressed that I couldn't see my daughter on her birthday.
I get that. That.
Yeah. So, okay. So is your case still open right now?
Yes. I want to say yes. I've got, 4 total kids dealing with this, but there's 3 in an open case. And they can't terminate my rights. I'm getting close to the end, but they can't terminate my parental rights because my oldest is refusing to allow my rights to be terminated. So,
oh, bless his heart. That's really sweet of him.
it is, and they've got him with my youngest. They live in the same foster home together.
Yeah, that's
my middle child. He's in a group home, I guess, if that's what you want to call it.
Oh,
3 hours away.
I'm really sorry. I want to say something, but it probably won't make you feel better. So maybe I won't say it.
Say it, please.
Group homes are not good places for kids to be, usually.
Awful.
Sorry.
No, it's awful. No, trust me, it's awful. No, it is. He tells me all the time. I mean,
I was in a group home at one point when I was a teenager.
I talk to him about anything. He used to call me to tell me how awful it was, and the judge put a no contact order on me and him because I would tell him his rights.
That is disgusting to me. I was interviewing next week's guest earlier tonight when I was walking my dog, and while I was having a conversation with her on the phone, I had said something that at the time I was like, maybe I won't say that on the show, but I changed my mind now, I guess. So I had told her, I was like, if everybody in this country knew the truth about the things CPS and the courts were actually doing to these children and these families, there would be an uprising. There would be a riot. People they would not stand for that. But most people don't know until it happens to them, until it's too late.
That is exactly what I've been saying this whole time. You don't know until it happens to you, and I hope it doesn't. I hope it doesn't happen to anyone. But you won't understand because you think I did. I thought DCFS, they're there to help kids, right?
Yep.
They're protecting our children. They're protecting children around the world. They are. That's their only job.
Ooh, so we have a guest, Lucia. She says, wow, that's exactly what happens here in Australia. Family violence, the victim gets penalized, and the police call CPS for help. You know what? Amen, Lucia. That is exactly right. Because CPS got involved with my family because of what started out as a domestic violence incident. And now my kids, all 3 of my kids, are now with the person who almost killed me multiple times and abused my children. Yep. And I'm being painted out to be this psychotic, antisocial. Like, that's what one of the therapists actually called me before I sued her. Antisocial, just like every name in the book that you can think of, I'm being called right now. And I haven't had any contact, any visits with my kids in probably over 2 years now. And it is completely breaking my heart.
Me too.
So.
Yeah. I mean, I should have contact with them. I haven't lost my parental rights or anything, but there's hate because I tell my kids their rights. What is wrong with the system that is entirely broken?
Amen.
So broken.
It is so broken. It is so broken beyond repair that the only way to fix how broken our system is to completely dismantle it and create a new one.
Exactly. I agree.
Because when are we ever going to figure out that history will always repeat itself? We have become even worse tyrants than the tyrants that we ran away from. Just saying. Just throwing that out there. Unpopular opinion.
Well, my kids are they're Native American too. They have Native American in them, but my dad was adopted, so there's no way to prove that. And I don't know what to do now. And that's what they're using against me.
Oh, Lucia says, it is a worldwide disease. Yes, it really is. It really is. Right now, I am reading Common Sense and Other Works by Thomas Paine, as well as the Federalist Papers that's in like this big bound book. And like, even though they were written in the late early 1700s, a lot of the things that they're talking about are so prevalent today. Like, they basically predicted exactly what is happening in our country right now. and they're talking about, you know, like the natural rights we have as human beings, and, you know, the problems with our government, where at that time it was mostly the French against the English against America. And it was just, all of it was crazy. But yeah, so I'm learning as much as I can from those books right now. So Janelle, you had sent me an article earlier that talks about how to deal with judges on your case. Yes. What made you send that article to me?
Yes, I did.
So what inspired you to do that?
You really want to know?
Yeah. If you're comfortable telling us.
I am, but I don't know. I only like to talk about facts, you know? I don't know everything, so I don't like to do like the conspiracy theories or whatever, but it was weird. It is weird that my judge, or I'm sorry, she's not a judge, she's a commissioner here in my town. And she shares a law, or used to share a law office with somebody. That's all. That was my whole point of this.
Do you think there's bias involved in this?
That?
Do you think there's bias involved with this judge in your case?
I definitely know that there is. My paid attorney told me there was. That she straight said to him, because they don't allow you in the courtroom. They don't allow you in the courtroom at first. They talk about you for a good hour before you even go in that courtroom in my town. I know I'm not supposed to say which town, so, but yeah, they don't allow you to go in there. They talk about you and figure things out before you get in there.
Yeah. That's how it goes in a lot of these courtrooms. Like, they've already made the decision of what they're going to do well before you even walk into the courtroom. Well, everybody's already made up their minds.
Yes, when they first illegally steal your children.
Yep.
And my kids are taken without a warrant. So
yeah.
Broken into my property, and I complied because I'm stupid, I guess. But
you're not stupid. Don't say that. You should have more, you know, like more love for yourself. That's the word I guess I'm looking for.
You know what?
I think we as parents, especially the ones.
I know that I've learned a lot. I've learned so much. I could be a lawyer at this point. I know that it's a legal search and seizure, first of all, because it was an expired warrant to search my property for my children, or to seize them. I mean, I rescued them from an abusive situation. Okay, they were abandoned in another state. I haven't seen my kids or heard from them in 6 years. And they called me panicked, saying, we don't know where he is. Where did Dad go? And I went and saved them. I called the police first when I got there, and DCFS showed up, and DCFS couldn't do anything because the police there, they helped me pack my kids and waved goodbye as I left with them and brought them to the state home, you know? Mm-hmm. And they freaked out and said that I wasn't complying with a case plan in that state, which I wasn't given one. So
I would have objected to that all day long.
Services to the person who, there's 47 pages of reports of my kids, my beautiful angels' little words coming out of their mouths, telling people all the abuse that happened. 47 pages. And that didn't matter. They still gave reunification services to him and refused them for me.
That is almost exactly what I'm dealing with right now in my case. They literally put my precious babies with the man who abused me and them, and they disclosed multiple times to mandated reporters during supervised visitations. And the city and CPS would turn their back and turn their head, be like, well, I don't know what you're talking about. I don't see what Mama's talking about. And then the facilitator would be like, she's not even the one who said that. It's what I'm seeing. It's what I'm hearing them say. And they were like, well, I don't know what you're talking about. So
yeah. It's ridiculous. I mean, and then they diagnose these children with diseases or diagnose them with things they don't have.
You know why they do that?
Because of Social Security money disability. Yeah, my kids were diagnosed 7 years ago, but they would refuse to go and check on them. I called the police station every week looking for my kids. I knew where they were. And they had been diagnosed by the school. They had people come in and diagnose them for almost 6.5 years. And didn't do anything. They didn't take them away from the abusive person, you know? And so my kids had to call me begging me to come help because he abandoned them. And I'm sorry to say, crackhead motel.
I'm so sorry. I know how frustrating that is.
I was happy. I knew where they were. I knew that they were alive. And I brought them home, and then all this happened because of what happened there. They mixed up the reports. They put them all together like I lived with him when it happened. And they took my kids.
Was that true that you lived with him when that happened?
No, I hadn't even seen him for 7 years. I'm sorry.
No, you are totally fine. Don't apologize. I'm just thinking of what I'm going to say. It's like kind of hard for me to because I used to be really good with words before, but now, I'm a little bit slower with my talking because of my brain injury.
Me too. I have social anxiety, so yeah.
I do as well. Oh, is my phone? Nope, it's not on silent. There it goes. Okay. I was going to say something, but now I forgot what I was going to say.
My babies were, two of them were diagnosed, like I said, when they were investigating, obviously, at the school when they were, away from me, and I didn't even know. I hadn't talked to them for 6 years. During that 6-year period, my kids were diagnosed with behavioral problems, 2 of them, 2 out of my 3. And which is funny because they diagnosed them with behavioral problems. But when I got them home, my middle son, he got really sick, and I took him to the hospital, and he had type 1 diabetes. I'm like, why wouldn't they recognize that, that they can diagnose them automatically at the school,
Yeah.
with a behavioral problem because they want to get a paycheck. That's the only thing I can come up with.
And you're probably right about that. But what you could do, now this is why it's important for everyone to learn what the rules of civil procedure are, what the rules of criminal procedure are, what the federal rules of evidence are, how hearings work, what are the objections, when do you make them, what do they mean, how to write a motion, how to do research on the statutes in your state that apply to your case, because knowing those pieces of information will be a huge help to your case. Because although they say that, no matter who it is, you make your own worst attorney. I think that's how the saying goes, or you should never represent yourself or something. But I don't necessarily 100% agree with that, because nobody's going to fight for your case as hard as you are,
Exactly.
Does that make sense?
No,
but I think
that's why my paid attorney quit on me, because I kept filing motions that he refused to. And then he just didn't. He said, in our contract, I don't do appeals. I was like, I don't remember that in the contract at all. Because why wouldn't you? Why wouldn't you do appeals? And I didn't call him. He called me. He called me when I was looking for an attorney, but I did not call that attorney. But he called me, and he's like, "Oh, I can do this for cheaper than somebody else who I really did want." And it wasn't my money, so I did it anyway. And he helped a lot at the beginning, but then he just stopped helping because I kept putting in motions that he refused to put in. And
now,
when I'm not doing this anymore.
When you say you were filing motions that he refused, what do you mean by you were filing the motions? Were you typing up the motions yourself and then giving them to them, or were you actually filing them with the court?
All of the objections that, gosh, I can remember now. Like I said, it's been over 2 years now. The JV 180s for sure. I filed for a change of address because they had my address wrong, and they're trying to claim that I lived at my ex-husband's house, which I didn't. I guess it's a whole complicated thing. But my ex-husband's house, where I had my previous incident, where I wasn't involved at all with my daughter. And they ended up adopting her out. So then they said from the beginning, I guess I didn't have a chance from the beginning, but they made me do all the things, the drug testing, the parenting classes, all the things. And I did all the things well. I paid all this money into all the things. And I'm going to find out it wouldn't have mattered to begin with. It's not fair. None of this is fair. And I know that sounds stupid, but
No, it doesn't sound stupid at all. It is very unfair and it's very wrong what is happening. And there's no right words to say to to make things better. It's just, right now I feel like it's a matter of spreading awareness. And what my personal goal is I want to become a federal lawyer, hopefully, possibly even a judge. But my main mission in life is to become the kind of lawyer that takes this city and state officials, including CPS workers and these therapists who perjure themselves on these affidavits all the time. I want to hold them criminally accountable in a federal court for what they are doing. But yeah, because I think
the term that I've seen a lot, because I do a lot of research on this, ghostwriters. You never heard that? Ghostwriters, that people that they write out the reports for workers? No. Yeah, ghostwriters. Yeah.
Ghost writers, not writers.
No, writers, like to write something. Yes, ghostwriters.
So
exactly.
So you're basically telling me that a lot of these reports that these CPS workers type up themselves actually aren't typed up by them?
I don't know that for a fact. I don't, but I know that there are ones that are signed. I have them that there's in lieu of or whatever the worker underneath the signature. Yes, I have many. I'm telling you, I've been going this for 7 years.
I'm so sorry. That is 7 years too long for anyone to have to deal with that.
Right.
Now, something did come to mind that I would like to share. So one of the things that I would talk about on my old shows were maxims, like law maxims. And maxims are basically the supreme law of the land, like right there with the Constitution. And one of the most famous maxims goes something along the lines of the burden of proof is on the party who asserts a claim or demands redress. So in court, you have to prove what you plead. The burden of proof is on the person who is pleading something in the courtroom. So if the plaintiff is the one bringing the case before the court, they have to prove what they're trying to say. So I would, and I think that's also in the article that you sent me that I took some notes on. Actually, I took 10 pages of notes to be exact. But what did they say? A proffer or offer of proof is what they talked about. Hold on, let me see. Gosh, this is a really good article also, by the way. Wait, what'd you say?
I have more about that too. So when you're done.
More about what?
That the burden of proof thing.
Oh, well, go ahead. What do you?
The reasoning for them coming onto my property, and the reason that I was complying, I was drug testing, I was, like I said, all the things for months. They allowed my children to be with me after I told them. I called them first. I called them when I rescued my children who were abandoned in another state. And called me panicked. I rescued them, called the police first, called DCFS second. That's what I did. And the cops came and helped me pack my children into my minivan and leave another state. And they knew where I was going, and DCFS didn't know what to do because they were freaking out because they had no idea because there was no big case on.
Because their money was about to drive across state lines. That's probably what it was.
Well, right, but their father he literally abandoned them after neglecting and physically abusing them for years. And they finally called me, and I said, I'm coming. I'll be right there, babies,
So Rachel just said, she posted a comment that says they are fill-in forms usually nowadays, and yes, there are ghostwriters. So she just said that what you were saying about ghostwriters is true. She says, but CPS never has to prove anything but CPS, it is hard for me to read sometimes, sorry guys. But CPS never has to prove anything. Their word of mouth is proof in court, supposedly.
I'm sorry, it's not funny. Okay. Yeah. Well, yeah, they sent a worker there to the hotel, that's not a hotel, it was a motel, a crackhead motel. But I rescued my children from where the police there, because I used to live in that town, in that state. I did, but I left because I was violently abused consistently, and so were my children. But I got kicked out, like I had to leave, and so I came home, and I didn't hear from my kids again because he disappeared with them. He did. He left with them for 6 years, and all of a sudden my kids call me out of the blue and go, "Mom, help us, please," on a video call. And I was so happy that they called, but at the same time, dude, what do I do? They're like, "Please come help." So of course I'm going to show up there, and the first thing I do before I even get to that crackhead motel room was call the local police, because I knew them because I was in a domestic violence situation for years. You know, they knew who I was, and they came and they said, "No, all right." They interviewed me and the kids, and then they helped me pack and said, "Get these kids out of here, go." And I waited for DCFS to come because I know better. Because I, like I said, I've been through this with my daughter recently, and I didn't want to. I'm not going to, I don't want any extra charges or anything. So,
and isn't it just so sickening that that's something that a parent even has to worry about? Because what you should have been worrying about in that situation was what your children needed in that moment and how you were going to give it to them. You know what I mean? Not like whether, CPS or DCFS is going to kidnap your kids,
Exactly.
It's just so sad to me that we even have to worry about that these things are even like a concern for us parents. I don't get it. I will never understand. It is sickening.
I know. There were 6 feet of snow, like snow banks, where my kids were. I'm not going to say it, but where my kids were, there was 6 feet on any side of any road, right? It was freezing out when they called me, and I got up there, and they were in the motel room with the door wide open, and all of them asleep in one bed with a blanket, like literally shivering. I didn't know what to do. So of course I'm going to call the authorities, because that's what you do. You call the police, right? You say, "What is happening right now? Why is this being allowed to happen?" And I called DCFS, and DCFS couldn't do anything about it because I am their mom. They came. I grew them. I grew them inside of me.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
And this fool took off because he had a little warrant for something stupid he did that I didn't know about because I didn't talk to him. And I talked to everyone. I made sure everything was okay, and the cops helped me pack. We packed up their things, and they waved goodbye as I left. And then all of a sudden, there's an Amber Alert or something for my kids, like I stole them.
Well, now, okay, so let me ask you this. Was there any order or case plan or whatever in place when you found out that their dad had abandoned them at a crack hotel?
Years, like I said, 6, 7, almost 7 years prior to that, yes, there was. I had it with his abuse, and I had called and had him. He was arrested, and he was in jail for 2 weeks in a town close by to there. But they let him out after 2 weeks, and they moved me into an apartment. I don't know who they is, but somebody that's just people from the community moved me and my kids while he was in jail, to give us somewhere to go because I didn't have anything, and I was there for a good 3 or 4 months, probably the best 4 months of our lives. It was great. And he stopped giving me child support, and they said, "You have no milk in your fridge," and they took my kids away.
That is sick. Now, someone...
And then they gave my kids to him after that.
Now, if anything is endangering your children, it's their fucking, excuse me, it's their effing actions. That is what is endangering children, not the parents in most cases, although there are some exceptions. It's DCFS/CPS that are doing more harm to our kids than any of us parents could ever possibly do.
I couldn't agree with you more. I mean, they took them away because I had no milk. I mean, that's really right.
That is why it is so important for us all to be familiar with the statutes and the rules of court in our state and on a federal level. Because that, I mean, there must be, I can't think of anything off the top of my head because my brain doesn't work as fast as it used to. But there's got to be like at least a few objections or rebuttals that, you could bring up if they, if their claim literally is in court that, oh, she didn't have milk in her fridge, so we removed these children from their environment at home.
Right, exactly. In an apartment that I was a victim, right? I was, and I hate saying that out loud, but I was of domestic violence for many years. And I got sent off to this town. I didn't know anyone with my 3 kids. I didn't have a job. It was the middle of winter. I couldn't walk anywhere to, there was nothing I could do. And then he had his girlfriend call. My abuser had his girlfriend call and say that I had no milk and no diapers because I asked him for diapers.
So it was a setup. It was a fake call.
Yes. Absolutely. And then they were placed with the abuser and his new girlfriend.
That is another point that I wanted to.
Yeah.
That's something else I wanted to bring up. I believe that perjury and false statements, like on the CPS hotline or whatever, those need to be like, what is the word? Gosh, sorry, my brain is like being so good. But we need to crack down hard on perjury in court and false calls to, child protective services, in my opinion. Because and this is just how I feel, but if people were truly terrified to lie in court because of the consequences that they know will happen if they're caught, then we would have so many less problems in going to court.
That is true. However, DCFS can lie all they want, right? And report or ghostwrite all they want. And that's not fair, but you can't say anything about it.
Well, I mean, I'm a host of the show, so I can say something about it. I'm not a licensed attorney. And in fact, my entire life's purpose, besides getting my kids back and undoing the fucking trauma that has been caused, sorry, it's easy for me to get worked up now, but the trauma that's been caused by the state of Virginia and their father, who CPS gave my kids to, despite loads of evidence of his abuse toward me and the kids.
Right.
And they even went out of their way to cover it up. And I'm like thinking to myself, damn guys, if only you would work as hard to do your fucking job instead of covering stuff up and lying and cheating. Like the world will be a much better place. But apparently not.
I mean, I have theories about that too, but kids get diagnosed with disabilities they didn't have before.
Yep.
And then get placed with the abuser so they can just take them away again. And then maybe the non-abuser can fight and give all the money, which it costs a lot.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yes. You are exactly right. Yeah.
But they're putting on me it was medical neglect now, all of a sudden, because my son is diabetic. I didn't know that. He was 5.
I would have countersued. I would have been like, oh, you think I neglected my kids medically? How about you guys, neglected them medically?
And they gave him reunification services and not me.
That sounds almost identical to the case that I'm dealing with right now. These people are literally pure evil. Like I don't even know if I believe in hell because I feel like we're already in it.
Have you looked it up? Because I know I have the amount of bonuses, the bonus pay that workers get. Just saying, for just removals alone, let alone removals with children with disabilities.
That's on top of the federal money that they get paid, right? And then the other incentives that they receive.
Yes, they diagnosed my children when they went to their abusive father for those 6 years that I didn't talk to them. They diagnosed 2 of my kids with disabilities. They did, but they didn't do anything about it. Like, there was no payment, like, set up with Social Security, nothing. But they did. They diagnosed 2 of my children with behavioral problems, put them in special classes and everything. And one of my kids has type 1 diabetes, but nobody bothered to check. And it's his blood sugar. He just gets upset when his blood sugar is low or high.
That could put him in serious danger, going untreated like that.
When I got him home, I say home, like here, home. When I rescued them and brought them home, it was a good 3.5, almost 4 weeks, right after his birthday. And he didn't look good. He didn't feel good. And I took him to the hospital, and he's diagnosed. And that's weird considering he was 11, Someone should have noticed that in the 6 years he wasn't with me. I would have noticed. But because the fact that he was starved by his father and abandoned for months, they lived by themselves. That's the only thing that kept him alive, because he didn't have any food to raise his blood sugar.
You know what your case sounds like to me? It sounds like the system in your state aided and abetted your ex into alienating you from your children, which caused probably insurmountable trauma to your children and to you.
Yes.
That's just my opinion.
Yes.
These people have got to answer for what they are doing to these families and, and these children. Somebody has got to hold them accountable.
Somebody does. They put them in psychiatric facilities when they have medical problems. They don't bother to check about what medical problems. My kid's blood sugar was off, He's a type 1 diabetic that nobody knew about. I took him to the hospital, like I said, and figured it out less than a month before, I don't understand why they put him in psychiatric facilities, strapped him to beds. That is a fact. When they're having behavioral problems, quote. That could be a blood sugar issue, correct?
Yes.
I don't know. I don't have diabetes, so I don't know.
Well, I'm not a licensed doctor,
like that.
But I would say that the underlying cause of his quote unquote behavior problems could absolutely likely be his low blood sugar. It only makes sense because I had a grandfather who was diabetic, and growing up as a kid, I could see what it would do to him when his blood sugar got too high or too low.
Exactly.
Yeah, and it's pretty serious. Diabetes is not something that should be taken lightly.
I know. I don't know. I didn't know anything about it because I've never known anyone really that was type 1 diabetes. I don't know, but I know that his first foster home he was put in, that's when I first got contact with him again, was because he would find a way to call me, and it was nearby, and he said that this woman, this foster mom, if you want to call her that, foster person, would withhold insulin from him as a punishment. My kid called me.
How did you find out about this? Did your child tell you?
He called me.
He
told me about it, and then so I brought him food because I knew he needed to eat if his blood sugar was too low. He needed food, and then he sent me a picture, which I have a picture of the food cabinets that have chains and locks on them. And then they allowed my youngest son, who lives somewhere else, to go visit him for an over weekend. I don't know what they call it. I forgot what they call it. It's like shelter care, but technically because it's another foster home. So my youngest, his brother, went to go stay with him for a weekend. And they called me and said, this isn't okay. This house is not okay. So we called the police. We did. My whole family did. We all called the cops, and they went over there and they tried to interview him in front of this mom, this foster parent person, and they wouldn't talk because they knew that what if something didn't happen, what repercussions would happen. And it was true. They didn't take my kids. They didn't move them anywhere. My kids, I have all of this. I have proof. And they made him stay there for 14 more days when she put in a notice to have him removed from her home. And then they sent him to a troubled boys camp, which is where he still resides.
I am so sorry that that's where he was put. Gosh, my heart is breaking for your story right now.
And
So,
only a little part of it.
oh, no. Well, unfortunately,
actually, my oldest wanted to call you, call the show a while back.
Aw, how old is
I
he?
didn't know if you guys take calls from kids.
I'll have to ask our producer if we do that. I'm not sure. But so we are coming close to the end of our hour. But I did want to say that hearing your story has inspired me to give you guys a little bit of homework. Don't worry, it's not hard. So my homework for you guys is to identify all of the issues in your case and see what you can do in your power to hold those people accountable who are causing those problems. So, for example, you said that a therapist or someone had lied in an affidavit, and that's like that kind of got the whole case started. Am I correct?
I don't know that they lied. I know that they didn't check to see what else could have been wrong. That was all that was. I don't know. I wasn't there. It was another state, and I don't know.
Gotcha. I must have misheard it then. I apologize. Okay. Yeah, because when it comes to perjury, there are motions that you can file. There are objections that you can make while you're in trial. But just be prepared to have to cite the legal statute behind that objection. Because at the end of the day, the person who frames their legal issue in the best way is usually the one who wins. In fact, that was in the article you sent me.
Okay, well, question.
Yes.
I don't know much about this, but you can get your judge or commissioner changed, correct? I mean, if there's obvious bias things going on, so, and my public pretender, as I call them, told me that they don't know how to do it. So how do I get my judge changed to someone who obviously doesn't hate me?
Okay, so I did read through the article that you sent me, and I took a lot of notes, and it does talk about recusal, and it talked about the 2 tests they do to see if a judge has bias. And let me see. One of the tests were, hold on.
I put in a notice, the proper form. I of course Googled it, but I put in the form, and then they sent something back to me saying, "Oh, well, you did it wrong, pretty much." I don't know. I don't understand.
Oh, okay. According to Lickety v. United States, judicial remarks and actions require recusal when they reveal an opinion that derives from an extrajudicial source. That is, the judge has relied on evidence from outside the case, or where they reveal such a high degree of favoritism or antagonism as to make fair judgment impossible. Let me see. I'm getting so close to the part where they talk about the 2 tests. Okay, well, I guess I'm not going to find that right this second, which is usually how it goes. When you need something, that's when you can't find it. So, Janelle, do you have any more questions for me or anything that you wanted to talk about your case before we end the show?
I have way more than you have time.
Well, maybe we can have you on again. I'll have to talk to my producer, Grace, because, while as I'm just getting started back in the shows again, I think I'm only doing the Thursday show for now, but I had a Friday morning show and Thursday
That's gonna be too
and a
late.
Monday afternoon show.
It's gonna be too late.
Mm.
Yeah, if I can talk to you, yeah, that'd be great because I've got court this week, so beginning of the week.
Mm. And
That's
what
the
is
last
the
one.
court date about, if you don't mind me asking? And you don't have to say.
It's pretty much the last one, I think.
Okay, so it's the dispositional hearing.
Well, see, that's another thing I wanted to ask. I know you've been studying law, right?
Mm-hmm.
So, my oldest, he's now 18, but since before he turned 18, he was refusing to have my rights terminated. And Vince is the one who told me that that's absolutely a thing. So since I've had one kid that refuses to have my rights terminated, then they can't terminate my rights for any of them. But they big fat did it anyway as my youngest, but they just reversed that for specific reasons.
Oh, good. That is such
job.
good news.
So I've not lost rights on any of my kids as of right now. But my kid's now 18. My oldest is 18, and my youngest, he hasn't been totally brainwashed yet. But so I don't know what that means. If that still applies, if one kid refuses, then they can't terminate rights for any of the kids.
Okay, so I don't have any personal knowledge of a statute like that one, but that's certainly something that would be very beneficial for me to look into, because if a law like that does in fact exist, I would like to know about it.
Right. Vince told me himself.
And if Vince told you, then that's, he would never steer you wrong.
I know that. I know.
Yeah, so if he said, that's an actual law, then, it absolutely is probably an actual law.
Yeah, but does it happen after 18 and stays in foster care? Because he's only staying in his foster home because of his little brother who's there with him. So
that's also a question that I'm not sure I can answer right now. As far as how the law goes, I don't know anything about that particular statute, so I wouldn't be able to really tell you anything about that. But what I could do, so what do you have your last court date? Do you have it this week coming up?
Yes, I do.
Okay. Is it before next Thursday?
Yes. I think it's Tuesday, Monday or Tuesday.
Okay. Okay, wait, you said the court date is Monday or Tuesday?
Yes.
Okay, so it's before the next show.
Well, I put in appeals too, by the way. So, and I don't know, I'm trying so hard to follow all of this. I'm learning a lot, but yeah, I've got appeals in with, the appellate court, but also, and then they just remanded one from the appellate court and sent it back to this court with the judge who is clearly not liking me very much.
It's got to be tough. Well, how about this, Janelle? I would like to have another phone conference with you before your court date so I can help you, get all your... Do you have an attorney for this next court date, or are you representing yourself?
Oh, sorry, I'm not laughing.
Oh, you're fine.
Yeah, I guess I do. They keep changing. It's different attorneys with different law offices and then that's ever since my paid attorney quit, he walked. He put in a notice and walked out of it. He was over it. And then they gave me these wonderful dependency lawyers. I don't know who it is now.
That doesn't make a lot of sense to me, but maybe that's because I'm not in California, so I don't know how the court system works over there. But usually, I know in Virginia, you have to have like an order of substitution, or you have to file a motion to withdraw as a lawyer, or,
He did that, yeah. He did that.
But you can't just have a random lawyer show up for your case. That
I did. I didn't get to pick. It was a dependency attorney.
Interesting. Okay. Well, I will definitely do some research into that before our next phone conversation, which I do want to have with you before your court date. Now, okay, let me ask you this. So for this court date coming up next week, what are your goals? Have you talked about your strategy with your attorney?
No, every time I do, she tells me nonsense that I don't understand. And she said, there's no winning this pretty much. And I haven't done anything wrong. Ask my kids,
And yep. I swear that's identical to the case that I'm dealing with, because I didn't do anything wrong either, ever at any point. And I'm being persecuted as though I did. And the person who actually did cause harm to me and the children is being glorified while I'm being vilified. It makes no sense.
Right? They give them the opportunity to have these reunification services and all the things, but the person who rescued them from the torture and trauma, there are so many, 47 pages of abuse, literally word for word, of all the abuse that they went through with him. And when I didn't see them, and then I went and rescued them from that when he abandoned them after it. And now I'm the bad guy because it says in the reports that he lived with me and the kids. And he didn't. And nobody will listen to me.
Okay, so I think that as soon as you heard that brought up in court, I would have offered, or I would have, objected for the party to offer strict proof. I would have been like, I need strict proof. Prove it. If I lived with them, prove it. Because the burden of proof is on them, not you.
I did, and yeah, I did, and same thing with the Native American thing, that the ICWA. They're saying it's up to me to come up with the proof that I am. My father was adopted, so there's no way. I mean, that shouldn't be my burden. Right?
No, it shouldn't. It should not. Oh, and I was just about to say something else, but I forgot. Gosh, it's so frustrating, like working with this brain now. I was just going to say something. What was I going to say? There was a video on my page. You can probably go back and find it. It's on the CPS, the Civil Rights Struggle page. And, oh yeah, that's what I was going to say. Okay. So when I was going through my page, I saw somebody who posted a video where a mother who alienated her children from their father for I think at least 3 years, the mother actually ended up going to jail and getting charged with parental alienation based on the father's victim impact statement. And although I am not familiar with the statutes when it comes to, how to present your victim impact statement, but one thing I do know is it is very important, if you can. It is expensive and costly, and this is something that you have to do on the onset of the trial, is request a trial by jury. So it's not just one dependency judge calling all the shots and exercising their nearly unlimited power. They don't
have to trials by jury here in California, do they, for dependency court, juvenile dependence? They don't, I thought, because I've asked for it many times, and they said that they do not do trials by jury here. Not for dependency anyway.
Now, dependency is a concept that I don't have a lot of experience with in my state. It's called Juvenile and Domestic Relations Court, like JDR for short.
Yeah, this is juvenile dependency here, and they don't do trials by jury. They don't, and most lawyers won't do appeals, even paid ones. I don't understand that. So you have to do it yourself, but then your lawyer gets mad at you and fires you, which is weird, and then you get stuck with the ones that get paid by DCFS. Yeah, I got
I got released by a lawyer, the second lawyer that I brought into my case that I paid a hefty amount for. She basically went over to the other side and was talking all this smack to me. And she was like, oh yeah, we'll prove it. And I was like, I have all the proof in the world, and I've been trying to give it to you. If you'll just look at it, you're my lawyer. This is literally your job. And
exactly. Yeah, I have the same thing. They said that they're accusing me of being a drug addict. I did drug testing randomly on their, whatever Whatever they wanted me to do, I did it every time, all the time for, 3 years for my daughter's case. And then with this one, with my boys, I said, I'm not stupid. I was pregnant. I found out I was pregnant right a few months after I got my boys and brought them home, found out I was pregnant and said, I'm not doing it. And I told them I was pregnant. I went in and got a hair follicle test because I was from bed rest, because it was it's serious risk pregnancy, high risk.
Mm-hmm.
And I got a hair follicle test and gave it to my paid attorney. And he took it into the courtroom, came back out with it and went, nope, she will not admit this into evidence. Yep. And then I got another one done. And then I kept doing the P test throughout all my pregnancy. Even though I was on strict bed rest, I still drug tested for no reason. I have no positive drug tests, none. I don't do drugs. It's ridiculous that they're trying to assume that I do, because their father did, and they're trying to put it in, like, mesh it into one that we lived together and that they were removed from both of us. That's not true at all.
Your story, I've got to say, is so incredibly disturbing. Maybe perhaps it's because it's so similar to my case that I'm dealing with in a lot of ways.
They all are, hon.
Oh
and
my
I've
gosh.
noticed that with every single time. Like I said, I'm a fan, avid fan of Vince Davis. I watch them all, and they're all the same. It's domestic violence, and it's because they make twice as much money that way. That's my opinion. That is my opinion. They take them from the non-abusive parent and end up going to the court thing, giving them to the abusive parents so they can just take them away again and get more money from the government. That's just my opinion.
And your opinion is probably quite correct. So I think the next step in general, overall, is going to be for us to figure out as a people, which is where the power lies. We need not forget that, everyone listening. The next step is for we the people to figure out how to hold these tyrants accountable.
They won't ever be. They will never be held accountable for this.
But see, that's like giving up before you even started. There are ways. There has to be ways.
But no.
Well,
You're right. It won't happen. I feel that. And because, everyone has a watchdog, right? Everyone does. The FBI is the only one who is the watchdog for DCFS. And I tried calling them too.
I had a guest once who had tried to, like, CPS or DCFS in your case, did not even remove her children yet. And she left the area with her kids to avoid, like, the case popping off. And they had a helicopter and the FBI tailing her.
Yep. They did the same to me. Maybe not the helicopter part, but they put an Amber Alert out on my kids when I rescued them, told them I was taking them home to California, and told them on the way, like, as I was going at every rest stop, you know what I mean? And then they still put an Amber Alert up for my kids. I'm like, I told you what I was doing. The cops helped me pack. This is ridiculous, but they put an Amber Alert out that missing children, that I kidnapped them.
That is, every time I hear you mention that, my blood boils. It is
right. They were abandoned, dude. And one of them had diabetes and he didn't even know. He'd never taken them to doctors. 6-7 years, no doctor, no dentist, nothing. But I'm the bad guy. And they try to give them back to him.
You know what I think we should all start doing? I think we should start countersuing when we get hit with some bullshit from CPS in court. We should be like, oh yeah? Well, how about I sue you for this and this and this?
Help me do that. I don't know how.
So I have, and this has taught me pretty much everything I know at this point, and we are past our time, so we're gonna have to wrap up. But when I talk to you this week coming up, well, no, you're going to court the first part of this week coming up. So I will talk to you before the end of this weekend, and I will give you the tool that I have been using for years, that has taught me everything I need to know about what the federal rules are, what motions are, how to write up motions, how to do objections, all that stuff.
Okay. One more question. I'm so sorry. I know we're past time, but can my kid call you? At least one of them. My oldest, he's 18.
Sure.
Yeah, for some advice.
Yeah.
And my younger ones probably couldn't. I mean, I can't talk to one of them, but my youngest, he's 12. Can he call you?
Well, so I am not a licensed attorney yet, so I cannot give out legal advice if that's what you're
No.
looking for. But I might have to clear it with Vince Davis first, or my producer, just to make sure that like that is allowed.
Okay, yeah, because they tried calling these. I know there's a hotline for foster kids, and to call and say things, but it didn't go well. So I want to know because I know you're not. Which I tried to get an attorney for my kids, but you're not allowed to do that either. And their attorney is not on their side. They say that's their words, not mine.
In my state, it's called a guardian ad litem. And it's chosen by the court system to look out for the best interests of your child. Oh, the guardian ad litems here are nightmares. Every once in a while, I hear a good story about a good guardian ad litem, but most of them are complete trash. You have to watch out for those guardians ad litems.
Okay, well, thank you.
You're welcome.
I knew that, but yeah.
But unfortunately, we have come to the end of our hour. We are past our hour. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and let all my viewers go for the night. And when I'm done with the show, I will get with you to schedule when we can do our phone meeting. How does that sound? You're welcome.
Hey, everyone needs to know, just don't stop fighting. They'll try to make you, but don't.
Yes.
Don't stop for your kids.
Don't ever stop fighting, guys. You're absolutely right, Janelle. So thank you, everyone, for tuning in to Fight CPS, the Civil Rights Struggle tonight. It has been such a pleasure being back. Now, you guys probably can notice a difference, from my last shows to now because of the accident. So next week during the show, I would like to set aside a portion of that show to open up the floor to let all of my viewers ask me questions about the accident, what it's like having a brain injury now, like whatever you guys want to know. So just keep that in mind. I will announce it on my page before the show. But thank you everyone for tuning in, and thank you, Janelle. It was a pleasure having you.
Thank you so much.
Of course. Is it okay if I call you after I get off the show?
Oh, please do.
Okay.
I'm gonna call you.
Okay, awesome. Well, everyone, thank you for tuning in. It has been an awesome pleasure for me to be back, and I will see you guys next Thursday.
We're glad you're okay.
Thank you. Thank you so much. All right, bye, everyone.
Bye.